Welcome to the Vision Gap Show. Align your big idea and vision with a plan of action to resonate and stand out in your market. With your hosts, Andy Halko and Tony Zayas.
All right, welcome to the Vision Gap Show. Today we're going to stay focused on value propositions. We're actually going to walk through and give you guys an example of how you can build out a value proposition. Specifically, we'll look at an example of a nonprofit. So Andy, I know we're going to take a look at some of the prerequisite areas, but what are some of the things that, from your experience, that nonprofits, like why would they find value in going through this exercise?
Yeah, I mean, we often talk about B2B and B2C businesses, but nonprofits, like any organization, want to develop a solid strategy for going to market. And they have stakeholders, just as a business has potential customers. A nonprofit may have potential donors, folks that they actually do giving to, organizations in the community. And it's important for them to understand those audiences in depth. They may not have what's traditionally considered a competitor, but a lot of times they have alternatives that people can donate money to or may utilize services of, whatever it might be. And then when you get down to things like value propositions, which we're talking about today, that clear articulation of what makes you unique, a nonprofit needs that too. They need to be able to communicate to all of these stakeholders, whoever they might be. Why are they around? What are they here for? And, why should people care? And so the things that we build in Frictionless are extremely applicable to nonprofits as well as the businesses that we typically talk to.
Yeah, and so today we're staying focused on the pet-themed organizations with the nonprofit. And the example here is if it's a smaller local nonprofit as opposed to kind of larger, more recognizable humane society and so forth. So I know we probably want to look for a couple of the areas that we really need to populate first in order to go through the value proposition workshop. So that would be target audiences and competitors.
Yeah, and we'll talk about, so we're going to get the value propositions, but it leads us into target personas and competitors first. Again, if you're familiar with Frictionless, it really allows you to detail out who you're targeting, whether that's for, again, if you're in a nonprofit, that might be folks to donate or to utilize services or the community, whatever that might be. And within our personas, we have a lot of different information, like our pains and buying factors, motivations. And so it's key for us to understand all of these pieces to truly understand our target audience. And that's one of the first steps in in value propositions, is that we really look at, why do people buy? Why do people choose an organization at the end of the day? The other thing that we'll look at when we develop our value propositions is competitors. And again, even if you're in the nonprofit space, you're typically looking at organizations that might compete for dollars or might compete for services. And so it's still important for you to kind of, look at that. And our system allows you to really dig in, understand their website design, their copy, and really get a lot of information about your competitors. And that's for another show, but it leads into value propositions. And so what we've done is really developed a powerful workshop to help you create value propositions. We believe that they are one of the most important pieces of any strategy that an organization can put together, because they're the foundation of how you communicate why people should engage with you. And so this workshop that we've developed is not simple, but it's also not complex, I'd say. But it has several steps to make sure that you get it right. So Tony and I are actually in here in real time, and it will work with us. And one of the first steps that we want to do is choose what are the reasons that people buy and then rank those. And so I may choose something like transparency and trust. I may look at something like ethical practices, especially when we're dealing with animals. And then because it's a local organization, we might look at something like local impact, community involvement. And in Frictionless, we're getting buying factors that came from our personas, but we also are providing a wide range of options by default that you can look at. And that might be, again, cultural and ethical alignment. We may have awards and recognition, something that people want to know that, you're validated because of that. And then I can really sort these in whatever factor that I want to really have what are the reasons that people are choosing us. And if I click over, Tony's done the same thing, and it looks like he's chose similar options to me. So we've now started off and understood what does our audience want. Well, the next thing in determining value propositions is how do we compare to the market? And so what I'm going to do real quickly is it's actually brought back to me based off of Tony and I's responses. If we had 10 people, it would bring that back. But it's scored based on the number of votes and where those different pieces were in our ranking. And we've come up with, a number that are here, and maybe I select that there's these 5 that myself, Tony, and anyone else that I had in here can now rank. And so I would rank ourselves: ethical practices, best; local impact, good; transparency and trust, best. And then we look at other organizations and we might say ethical practices, a little bit more on the weak side. Local impact, if you're, a large organization, you might have none. Trust and transparency, these are weak. And so we go through and we actually are going to rank all of our different factors here. And I'm just going to go through quickly and do that. And I'll click over on Tony, and he's done a similar thing and is going through this process currently. And I even get to see in real time as he continues to put his votes in as well. And so now what we've defined, the 2 big things: what does our audience really care about and want? And then how do we compare with others in the marketplace for those things? And what that leads us to is this N factor, where we've now received 3 value propositions with an advantage score. And what that means is we're really looking at, based off of all the voting that just happened, there is a delta between ourselves and our competitors that is our advantage. And so with this first one, you can see community involvement. We came out with a 3.3 advantage, local impact 2.5, and then ethical 2.3. And so now the next big step is we want to provide context for that. We've obviously determined what are the 3 things that we really stand out in the marketplace for compared to everybody else. And now we're actually going to fill that in with a little information like, why are you better than everybody else? So I'm just going to grab some information as an example. So I'll do ethical practices. Why are we different than everybody else? What proof do you have that you're better? And then just finally, why is it important for this audience to have this? And I could do that across all of these. So I'll do, local impact as well. And on Tony's side, he is doing this in real time as well. And we're actually going to be able to see that he's got some answers in here too. And so what we're doing is we've now gone through this process to determine what are the 3 things that we really stand out in the marketplace for. And now we're collecting information from our team that really help define this, of why we're better, what proof do we have, and why is it important to the audience. And so the real magic now comes is that we can see participation in here, and it's real-time scoring. I didn't do this at all yet. And so we're only at 32% because just from Tony, I can't generate anything yet. But what we'll do is we'll do ethical practices, and I can hit generate. And what it's going to do is help me really clarify and articulate this value proposition for my organization. And it's actually leveraging information throughout the personas, this information that we put into this workshop. And now you can see for this value proposition of ethical practices, we've got advocating animal welfare unwaveringly, where ethical practices meet compassionate care. At Animal Shelter and Rescue, we believe that every animal deserves a life of dignity, care, and love. And so you can see that it's now really created a thorough articulation of this value proposition, even into things. Our commitment to ethical practice is not just a statement, it's a cornerstone of our mission. But the commitment to ethical practices extends beyond care. And so it's really taken these answers and turned it into something special. And so now I've added it to my main value propositions. I can come back here, and now I can see that it's one of my shared value propositions within the platform that all of my team can access. And if we need to, we can go back to the workshop, and we're going to look at local impact. It's at 100% now because we fully filled that out. And now our AI is going to help us generate a clear articulation of this local impact value proposition. And so we can do this process where we come in and actually build out this great value proposition. And I'm going to add it to my main ones. And again, now we've got another one, empowering community, one pet at a time, transforming lives through local engagement and care. So we can really see that we're now building out these really clear and powerful value propositions. Now, the great thing about this is organizations change and they evolve and adjust. And so over time, what you can do is you're learning more about your personas. You get to have data that's coming in here. Your team can come back and re-rank some of these. You can bring new folks in that come into the organization, and then you can hone your value propositions. Because one of the things that we see too often is that organizations will create information like this, maybe hire an outside firm to do it, and then they'll let it sit for too long. And the key is that you constantly have to be evolving and understanding the market, and then clearly articulating why people should buy from you. And so this process really allows you to get to the heart of these different factors that are then going to drive your positioning and your messaging and your content, because they are the pillars of how you're going to communicate everything to the marketplace.
Awesome. Some really foundational, valuable information, these value propositions that are built out. We did it in under 14 minutes here today, built 2 of them. So this is typically an exercise that takes a lot of thought, typically a lot of time, and you can be really effective with it. So I just encourage everybody to go check out Frictionless, sign up for a free account if you're not already a user, and give it a try. It's one of my favorite pieces of it is the workshopping element, because you're able to just bring in all these different perspectives and put something very comprehensive together that hits all the points.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.
This episode of the Vision Gap Show has been brought to you by Frictionless. Build high-impact strategy at scale. Create your vision, brand position, and go-to-market strategy, all in a collaborative AI-enabled workspace. Visit frictionlesshq.com to create your free account today.